Let's get rolling. Well, thanks everybody for coming to tonight's educational forum on staying cool after spinal cord injury. Trying to stay muted during the presentation. However, we have a pretty small group, so I'm cool with anybody unmuting and chiming in or asking questions or sharing anytime during this. I just want to thank you all again for coming to talk about temperature regulation or the lack thereof. And we're going to explore why our bodies struggle to stay cool, the dangerous side effects of getting overheated, and share some tips and tricks for when you have to be out on a hot day. For able-bodied individuals, the body regulates temperature by the central nervous system and sends messages to the hypothalamus. And that section of the brain controls your thermoregulation. When it senses the internal temperature becoming too high, it sends signals to muscles, organs, glands, and the nervous system to respond in a variety of ways to help you cool back down to a safer temperature. This can be done through two main ways. The first is through sweat, which I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with, unless you have a high up injury and can't sweat anymore. And the other way is through vasodilation. So when your body gets hot, like sweat glands kick in, your skin gets wet, and then it evaporates off you, which triggers like a cooling effect. And then the vasodilation, the blood vessels under the skin get wider and increase the blood flow. And it kind of pulls them away from the surface of the skin, or from the organs where it's hotter in there, and that releases heat through radiation. And after spinal cord injuries or other various stuff that affects like the spinal cord, these signals get interrupted or completely blocked, making it very hard to regulate your body's temperature. On the image in front of you, on A, you can see like the healthy system where everything is just kind of flowing with each other, working in coordination. And then, post SCI, you see how these little lightning bolts are disrupting these signals. So all these things that are supposed to work in correlation with one another just aren't working or working in a very limited capacity. And these little disruptors, they become more prevalent the higher up your spinal cord is affected. So what level of injury is most commonly affected? It's the problems with temperature regulation happens in individuals with cervical and high thoracic spinal injuries because they're unable to increase their heart rate to sustain cardiac output when blood flow to both the muscle and skin, and because they have reduced sweating capacity are completely unable to sweat. So essentially a T6 and above are the most affected by this thermal regulation. And when the body's unable to regulate your temperature, you become more prone to having severe side effects, and these can happen like super fast on days that don't necessarily feel that hot out. And if you look at the image on the right, you'll see that part of your spinal cord injury, or it's part of your spinal cord that regulates the sweat glands, and the skin microvessels are in between like the T7 and T8 area. And so that's why like T6 and above are the most affected. Some of the main concerns with getting overheated are heat exhaustion and heat stroke, which can be life-threatening. And it's important to recognize the difference between the two and know when to take immediate actions or call emergency services. Some of the signs of heat exhaustion include dizziness or fainting, intense thirst, excessive sweating if you're able to, rapid weak pulse, nausea or vomiting, and pale, cold, clammy skin, muscle cramps, or fatigue. And some of the signs of heat stroke include a pounding headache, confusion, elevated body temperature, no sweat at all, rapid strong pulse, also nausea and vomiting, and red hot skin and losing consciousness. And not only does having an SCI tend to make these dangerous side effects happen faster, it also takes longer to counteract these symptoms. So I don't know if you guys have noticed that when you're out on a hot day and you come in, it takes longer to cool down than it used to. Another hidden danger for individuals with T6 or a higher injury is that getting too hot can also cause autonomic dysreflexia, which will lead to elevated blood pressure and put you at a risk for stroke. And then if you're going into heat stroke, that also puts you at a risk for stroke. And bladder management also comes into play for some of us that are catheter users. For some individuals, the intermittent calf, they'll tend to drink less fluids and limit their intake when they're going to go out to an event so they can better manage their bladders. And this can be an effective way to manage, but it also causes you to be more dehydrated, which can lead to speeding up heat exhaustion or heat stroke. And drinking alcohol also directly affects your risk for dehydration too. So let's say it's a hot day and you're going to a barbecue, you have a T6 or higher injury, and you're not sure how the bathroom situation is going to be, so you've been limiting your fluid intake so you don't have to calf as much. And then you get there and it's hot and there's a bathroom and a buddy hands you a beer, and that's that combination of having a spinal cord injury, not being able to regulate your temperature, being a little dehydrated because you're limiting your fluid, and having a beer on a warm sunny day can lead to heat exhaustion a lot faster than you think. Even though it's a miserable feeling, heat exhaustion is treatable, especially if you're able to get out of the heat. When I get overheated, I like to get inside an air conditioned room and pour water on my head, mist myself, and sit as close to a fan as I can get just to like cool off as fast as possible. The most important thing you can do is like listen to your body and recognize the signs of going into heat exhaustion before it gets into heat stroke. So some of the steps you can do is get out of the heat, get into an air conditioned room, use a fan, drink plenty of cool liquids, pour liquid over your head, or like the most effective is just a combo of all these at once. When it comes to heat stroke, and if you think you're experiencing symptoms of that, the best thing to do is call 911 immediately. Cool down any way as possible. This goes into like panic mode of cooling down. If able to, like get in a cold shower, submerge only in cool liquid, cover with cold wet towels. Now that we've kind of gone over some of the ways why our bodies can't regulate temperature, let's talk about ways to avoid getting overheated in the first place. And obviously staying indoors and out of the sun is the best way, but not always practical or possible, especially for those of us that like to get out and be adventurous and get out in the outdoors. So let's go over some cool tips and tricks of how to avoid going into that. And here's some of the gadgets that can help you stay cool. Staying hydrated is super important when having to be out in the heat. So a backpack with a water bladder in it is a great way to make sure you have plenty of fluids. They can hang from the back of your wheelchair and be pretty accessible to both paras and quads. A spray bottle with the fan can help you keep quite a bit cooler. The mist actually mimics sweat while the fan is helping speed up that evaporation. Cooling towels work wonders when having to be out in the sun. Especially you get those things soaking wet and put it up over your head, and that'll cool you down like quite a bit. Personal neck fans add a nice breeze. And the instant ice packs are pretty inexpensive and are easy to travel with, and you don't have to worry about them melting when you're out there. And also a clip-on fan can be a great accessory for your chair on a hot day. You can get them either battery powered or USB for people with power chairs that are able to plug it in. Then the next two options are a little more extreme and more expensive, but also work really good. And one is a cooling vest. And those are great if you have to be outside in the heat often. And then one of the like Icy Breeze style portable air conditioners. It's basically a cooler that's been revamped into an air conditioner. And they're expensive, but they blow like ice cold air and work really well. That's pretty much it for the presentation. I'd love to open it up to you all to share tips and tricks that you found to stay cool when you have to be outside.
Oh, I know of a good cheap one instead of that cooler one. You know those the shop vacs?
Yeah, shop vac.
Yeah, if you get a shop vac and put ice in it and put that thing on reverse, it'll blow out cold air.
I've never thought of that, and that's actually a genius idea.
Yeah, they even sell the shop vacs, they're a shop vac, but they're made for like a 5-gallon bucket. So you could put on any 5-gallon bucket. You get a bucket, get that shop vac, the cap one, and then yeah, put ice in it.
That's actually genius, man. Good
Yeah,
thing.
for camping or something like that,
Yeah.
Because I always used to use those ice packs. You put them in the freezer, because my back would burn. Because I have
Yeah.
like some feeling in the back, and I'll put ice packs in the back to make me feel good. But then you forget them, or you need to remember to put them in the ice, and then you need to wait for them, and yeah,
Yeah, and they melt fast too.
yeah.
Have you ever tried the instant ice packs?
The one you had on the picture in the presentation.
Yes.
Let me see. Go back. Which one? Oh yeah,
So
the one in the right corner.
yeah, so literally you like break the inside and like a glow stick kind of, and it does a chemical reaction. It gets ice cold.
Oh, like that, like those hand warmers, but I expect.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I never seen those before.
Cody, do you have experience using those?
Yeah, those things are a game changer for me. Like I don't have a spinal cord injury, but I have MS, and it mimics exact like spinal cord in so many ways. And
Oh,
heat intolerance is definitely one of them. And like last year is when I found those, or I guess I had the thought to use them, and they're a game changer to have.
how cold did they get? Did they get really cold or?
Really, really cold. Yeah, like it was. I would say initially it was colder than if I was holding like ice in my hand.
Oh wow. I
I
wonder
think
if there's like dry ice in there or something. Like
Something like that. Yeah.
that's cool.
I think the nice part about them is there's something you can like keep in the back of your car, and you don't have to worry about them like being in the freezer and bringing them along.
Yeah, I got
And they're like instant.
50 for like $20 on Amazon.
Yeah, and yeah, there's just the portability of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the biggest thing like that I've recognized is just like when you have that little feeling of like I'm getting too hot, like you're already there. You've already hit it, and pay attention to that because like there's times where I'll try to push it or like be, I don't know, like a bigger man, so to speak, and like just hang out for another 5 or 10 minutes, but it bites me in the butt every time.
I hear you on that. Matt, you got any cool tricks you've learned on like your outdoor adventures?
All his outdoor adventures involve water, so they stay cool.
I think Matt's on his adventure right now.
Yeah.
He's cooling off right now as we speak.
Ian, have you struggled at all with temperature regulation?
Since my injury 9 months ago, so I went through the summer and I haven't really paid attention to it, I guess. Like, I don't really struggle in the heat. I don't sweat anymore. But I'll tell you, when I was at that facility in Bend, the rooms were like 100 degrees already, and the sun was on our side of the building, and they had no AC, and I was like experiencing autonomic dysreflexia from being so hot in there,
Yeah.
and I was like, so like fortunately at my house, I've got a cooler right behind me, so I can always cool this room off, and the house always stays ice cold, which I'm not really a big fan of.
Yeah.
But yeah, on adventures, what was I checking out? Oh, that Camelback. I have one of those from my old exploring. So I'll have to dig it out and be great for. I'm trying to get into some fishing.
Nice. Yeah, those camelbacks work great because they hang from the back of the chair so good, and you can put a bunch of ice in there and fill it up, and it's just like, I don't know, for some reason I'm more prone to just drink out of that thing when I have it on me.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
It'd be good to pay attention to like some of the things you recognized, Ian, when you did get that, because those same feelings will happen again at some point, and it'll just kind of tune you into being able to pay attention, like, oh, that's my thing.
Yeah. I before this, I think, and maybe many of us spend all the time in the sun and it's no big deal. Like my skin gets really dark, the sun never bothered me.
Right.
And so changing gears from that's kind of like, yeah, I gotta be more mindful. You gotta be more mindful about everything so
Yeah.
Ew.
For me, I get cold really easy now, so I love the sun, like I go sit in it and soak it up. But it's like, there's that fine line of getting a little too much, and then it's like in panic mode trying to cool down and dumping water over my head and sitting in front of a fan because I took it too far.
yeah. We had a barbecue maybe 3 weeks ago, and it had to be 100 outside. It was blazing, and there's just like one patch of shade in my yard, and so I cruise over, and I'm like under that. But I mean, I spent most of the day out there, and I didn't have anything bad. I guess that's good.
Nice, man, you're super lucky.
Yeah, but I agreed with what you said. The cold, no more.
Yeah.
I cannot do it.
Yeah,
It tenses me up like, oh man, rough.
yeah. I know what, and once I get cold, it's like, I don't know, I'm just uncomfortable and it just like, oh, makes everything else worse too, spasms, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mean to take off, but I got to take off, guys. It was really cool to hang out with you for a little bit, though.
Thanks for coming, Cody. And hey, Cass,
Later.
I saw you just joined, I'm sorry, you missed the part of the presentation. We're just chatting about tips and tricks to stay cool.
Hi, you all. This is Kat, and I'm sorry. I thought it was at 5:30.
No problem. I'm sorry if you were stuck in the waiting room long. I was in presenting mode and I couldn't see until I came out of it.
It's okay. So I'm a paraplegic and I have lots of issues. Like I was listening to someone saying cold is really difficult, and I really love my heating blanket. I don't know if anybody talked about that, but it's one of the best things that has been bought for me. Is just a very small one. It's not very big. It's the size of in fact, my feet stick out, so it's not like it's huge, but it's just the best thing, and I call it my hot tub. I go to my hot tub like every day in bed, whether it's hot or cold, because people who are living in this house like air conditioning, and I like it nice and warm. So
Totally. Well, what part of the country do you live in?
I'm in Vancouver, Washougal area.
Oh, okay, yeah, so very similar climate then.
Yeah.
I'm down in Oregon area.
Okay.
I tried to get
Excellent.
people to join that were in the Florida area, but the time difference threw them off, but just because they're in that hot climate all the time, so I was hoping to hear some of their tips and tricks too.
Yeah. I've not had much trouble with heat except making sure that I don't get sunburned. I'm going to Cabo San Lucas in October, and I'm expecting it to be a bit hot, and they usually have hurricanes, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But when I went to Hawaii and other places, I'm a relatively new paraplegic. I just became disabled in 22. Learning what you have